Hi everyone, Sylvain, the artist, once again. I know it's been a while since I posted something. Um, I've been busy making provocative images. Um, Lots been going on in the world, in my intimate world and in the world at large. So I've been trying to translate that into content and subject with medium. So a clever way to bring back my three pillars there: medium, subject, content. It's relevant because what I want to talk about today, um, there are great scholars out there, academicians and other more learned people than I, that might take issue with my oversimplification of these three terms. But more and more, there's so little. Not that there's little information. I think sometimes we need to speak in plain language about big concepts, just so that we can begin to personally, individually, have mental access, a vantage point, if you will. How do I look at something called modernism? How do I look at something called classism? How do I look at something called postmodernism? And that's the area I'm living in right now. And I'm going on 58 years of age this September, so I've lived long enough to be in the thick of late modernism and the transition into postmodernism. And there's still an argument among intellectuals that postmodernism does or doesn't really exist as a real thing. So, as an artist, I'm going to give you three simplifications that I think will give you access to, oh, that's what we're talking about. Because we all have certain images that, if I say classism, you immediately are thinking images of Renaissance and so forth, and you're not wrong. If you think modernism, you might be thinking everything from Warhol to Kandinsky and Picasso. But why is it called modernism? If I say postmodernism, most people are going to be like, okay, after Picasso? So, let me get to it. I don't want to bore you. Classism, as I said before, you may think of the Renaissance, but it's much more than the Renaissance. Classism, basically, forget about the images in your head. Forget about what paintings, how to categorize right now. Just think of what in art classism means. There's a reason it's called classism, okay? Well, there are many reasons for that, but again, I'm simplifying. Think of classism this way. Remember the three pillars: medium, subject, content. In classism, the medium was something that you had to show a very high level of proficiency in. And I'll talk about painting because I'm a painter. We're all paintings, aren't we? But for a sculptor, it may be marble or it may be granite. The stuff you work with, you have to be able to work with well. That's a paradigm of classism. Sounds a lot like school, academia, class. Okay, it also has to do with distribution of wealth. But anyway, classism. Think of a classroom. You have to be able to be proficient. Your subject has to be recognizable. So it was everything was about emulating the real world, the world around us, a world that we had easy access to, that we could easily understand. Because then content was also very important. If your client, can't believe it, if your client or your supporter, whatever, was the church, chances are, or mosques or religious institutions, chances are the demand on your artistic output would be not only to emulate a story, but story is content. What are people going to learn by looking at this? What are we trying to say in this? Content, very important. Subject, very emulating, very real, very representative. And classism being very well done. Okay? Classism. Think classroom. Modernism, I'm going to say, largely came about because of the camera. Once we humans became clever enough to be able to capture the real world, to emulate real life, the world around us, with a mechanical device, suddenly the artist's subject became questionable, and a little shaky. Now, there had been revolutions in art before, and I don't want to go into all of art history. I'm just trying to give you a lens here. Think of modernism as a bunch of students who graduated the classes in high school, and they started going to university, and they thought, this is bullcrap. I'm tired of being told how to paint a head and how a body should look and what are the rules of painting. I'm sick of the rules. You know, you've got a camera now. Let it handle rules, you know. I am going to be more inventive. I am going to bleed my content message into the subject emulation with my skills as I develop them with the medium. No, I'm not going to take vermilion and put 2 drops of this and 4 drops of that and a little of this in order to create this tone. I'm going to use acetate. I'm going to use house paint. I'm going to draw lines. The heck with classroom. I'm going to do things different. That's modernism. So now you understand why Picasso looks like Picasso. You understand why Fauves looked like Fauves. Because they were finding other modes of expression, and in so doing, they were changing the 3 pillars, taking them away from rigidity and rules, and giving them a more human, more exploratory life. So what the heck is postmodernism? After the rules and breaking the rules, you kind of done everything, right? And in fact, you've heard the old cliche. Sometimes some critics have said, death of painting, death of art. It's not really what they're talking about. They're talking about the whole revolution of modernism kind of gave the collector, the viewer, the appreciator, not the artist, desensitizing of what it was to create great works of art. And there's a lot of misinformation. So that's the breakdown they're talking about. So postmodernism is really about fixing that. I don't want to say repair. It's not that it's broken. It's that there's a new lens to look at art with, from the artist's perspective and from the viewer's perspective. What the postmodernist is thinking is, okay, we have the rules and we have breaking the rules. But you know what? After you break enough rules, you're just creating more rules. Okay? So let's relax about that. Let's get back to medium, subject, and content. We have something to say. That's content. Our subject now can be many different things. It can be emulative, but it can also be interpretive. It can be distorted. It can help tell the story of the content. And at the same time, we live in an age of so much information and contradiction and marketing and socio-political manipulation that the content now is becoming a very strong element of having to speak out. And so the subject is getting influenced by exactly what the content is trying to expose, turning in on itself and so forth. And the medium then becomes, look, it doesn't really matter if you use tar and twigs, okay? But it has to make sense, and you have to make a lasting thing. Not necessarily. Some people would say, well, it could be just an event. You're right. It's not my cup of tea, but I won't fight it. Again, the basic thing is Classism, classroom. Modernism, I'm out of here. Postmodernism, oh, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at ourselves. Let's look at what's going on. Let's get back to artists being responsible for reporting on what they see in their culture. And that's not a new idea. The German expressionist movement was largely railing against the war and the inhumanity of man against man and war and strife and just those things. But that was also in classism, where things like the plague hit and the church overstepped itself. You know, look at Goya. Although you could say that's where modernism begins and classism ends. But what I'm saying is there's really nothing new under the sun. What is new is our perspective, the way we look at the world. And an artist has always been somebody who reports on the world and uses methodology, ways of seeing. How do we see the world? And how do we capture that in a way that transmits commentary on it? Postmodernism is much more concerned with the story of man. And it's not always socio-political, but I think you'll find that there's a tremendous amount of socio-political work right now. Look at the output out of China. And, you know, some academics might say, well, you know, that's facile, or it's derivative because it's, you know, it copies other stuff and stuff. I get that. I hate it when I look at an image that seems really well done and captures my eye, and I can tell that you just repeated what so-and-so did. And it kind of deflates the message. Why? Because I'm a postmodernist. Because the message is important. But it's unfortunate because there's some really great works of art out there that are, I mean, we're all derivative in a way. I guess what's most important now about artwork and artist is a recognizable voice, not necessarily a recognizable pattern, like modernism really promoted, and Warhol was guilty of this, but he's not the only one. Just this repetition of, oh, I know that's that artist because he does flowers on bricks. That's that guy, or that's that lady. She does, you know, dolls. See, postmodernism really is disgusted with that. It says, why do I have to be such a one-dimensional thing? None of us are. Human beings are not one-dimensional. Sure, I may do a whole series of things about 9/11. That's a big subject. I have a lot to say about it. But I am not the 9/11 artist. You know, I will do other things, and they should be just as valued as those. But that's a difficult thing, and that's another conversation. So hopefully I gave you 3 lenses, 3 tools to help you penetrate those terms, and also to help you qualify what it is you're looking at, maybe even what it is you're trying to do. All right? Classism, classroom. Modernism, out of here. Postmodernism, what's going on? Let's expose it. I'll give you a real simple statement for postmodernism. The emperor's new clothes. The emperor is naked. So hopefully I provoked some thought. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.